Hey everybody, welcome to day 3 of Ram Industry Week 2020. I'm here with my business partner, and in case you probably can't figure it out, brother Pat Norsha, and we've got some special treats for you today.
Yes, on today's show we've got a couple of guests from the Southeast Gassers we're really excited to have here, and before we take a look at their cars and talk with them a little bit, we're going to take a look at our product offerings for the muscle car market.
I think a lot of people don't realize that Ram does a lot of clutch sets for muscle cars, restorations, and also for transmission swap applications. We have options available, really pretty much everything from stock replacement up to real aggressive street stuff.
Yes, a lot of people actually think about us as a company that makes clutches for high-end drag racing, Mountain Motor Pro Stock, earlier Pro Mods from years gone by, and actually we cut our teeth and got started in the strip market back in the 70s in Canton, Ohio.
Yeah, and these clutch systems certainly have evolved over the years since the days back in high school when I was driving my Camaro with a 6-pad disc and a leg brake and Borgenbeck pressure plate that you thought was going to shake the dashboard right out of the car every time you let out the clutch.
Well, there's no doubt about that. That was quite a ride to drive that car and quite a challenge. But the market's really changed a lot. The design of clutches has really evolved over the years, and we've really drilled down on the load factors and some of the things you need to decide. But when you're choosing a muscle car clutch set, the first thing you really need to decide is what's the intended use of the car and how are you going to use this? Is this a complete restoration car that's just going to be a cruiser, or is this going to be a car you're going to take to the track a few times a month and really pound it hard?
Yeah, and it seems like it might be hard to really make that decision on what to use, but it's really about deciding on those load factors. What's the weight of the car, the gearing, the transmission, does it have a tire on it that's sticky, and all those factors are really going to load the clutch a whole lot harder and impact your decision.
Well, certainly, Mike, that's a big thing you want to look at, and really figuring out what the optimum gearing for that car and setup is going to be a big question in what we decide to build for it.
It's definitely not all about the horsepower, and a lot of these decisions are the same ones we use when we're making decisions on what kind of clutch we need to use in a race application.
Yes, and now looking at the clutch sets, the muscle car clutch set is a great choice for most restoration cars. It's going to give you an increase in clamp load, a nice holding power pressure, but it's still going to use an organic friction material, and it's going to use a very strong dampening hub that's going to cushion the driveline shock and give you a really good driving experience. When you pair that up with a right weight flywheel for your car, it's going to give you a really nice car you can enjoy to drive for many miles and take people for rides in.
And it's great you mentioned the flywheel, because that's an important part that a lot of people don't think about. It really is the foundation of the whole clutch system, and having that stable platform to build your combination on is really going to put you in something that's going to give you some good life. And of course, those Ram flywheels are made right here behind me, or right in front of me here in our building in-house, and each of those are going to come balanced from the factory surface ground, and they're ready to bolt in right out of the box.
Yeah, definitely something you want to think about when you build your combination is picking that flywheel the first time. And then moving up from the muscle car sets, if you're going to drive the car a little harder, we move into several different options. We've got the HDX clutch sets, which is just a small step up from the muscle car. And then we move into some of the metallic frictions like the Power Grip and the Power Grip HD sets.
Absolutely. And Pat, don't forget, once you get up into that gray area where you might have to run a real aggressive single disc, you've also got the option of going to a dual disc and staying with the organic friction and having something that's going to drive real smooth.
Yeah, that's something we run into a lot when we're talking to customers on the phone, is making that decision whether or not to jump to a dual disc system. And typically when you move into the 400, 500, 600 horsepower range, oftentimes a dual disc is a better choice because it's going to give you a nice smooth pedal effort and give you good drivability as well.
Absolutely. And we've also seen a real big surge in the transmission swap market in the last several years. People with muscle cars putting 5 and 6 speed transmissions in. It really allows you to hit the highway and drive something and not be turning 3,000 RPM driving 55 miles down the road.
Well, there's no doubt the transmission swap market has been huge, and putting those 5 and 6 speeds in those early muscle cars has really made those cars a lot more enjoyable to drive.
And don't forget about the hydraulic release systems too. We're manufacturing hydraulic release bearings now for pretty much any of those aftermarket transmissions, as well as the early model transmissions, and that really eases the install where you might have some restricted space in the engine compartment, can't fit that linkage in, maybe with a big motor or big headers in the situation.
Yeah, the hydraulics is definitely a good way to go on those early muscle cars, and there's a lot of aftermarket slave cylinder products as well to go with that hydraulic bearing and make that setup complete.
Well, as they say in the song, we certainly can't drive 55 anymore. It's going to be 70, 75 miles an hour, and I can tell you personally, in my Camaro, since I put the 5-speed in there, it's certainly a whole lot more fun to drive the car now than it was with just a plain old 4-speed in there. So, want to make sure you go to our website and check out all these single disc clutch sets, also the flywheels and the hydraulics, and you can find all that at ramclutches.com.
Speaking of driving 55, we've got a couple stars from the Southeast Gassers coming up next. We've got Leslie Horne of the Chick Magnet and Larry Floyd of the Stud Muffin. We're back here on day 3 of Ram Industry Week, and I'm joined now with Leslie Horne, driver of the Chick Magnet. And Larry Floyd, driver of the Stud Muffin SEGA Gasser.
Golly, he is keeping those RPMs way up on the line as that car.
And we're going to kind of run through the Southeast Gassers. They're going to give us a little background, kind of tell us what's going on with the group, what they've seen here this season during this kind of pandemic-struck year. Leslie, can you give us a little background on Southeast Gassers? We've got a lot of audience here that doesn't really know what the Gassers are. They might have seen some pictures, but obviously there's a lot of Gasser groups. This one's a little bit different.
Yeah, with the Southeast Gassers, you know, it's designed, it has a lot of rules. We have several different classes. We have an A, B, C, and then we have a super stock class that's really come on strong last year that has to run a 7-inch tire. We'll talk a little bit more about that here in just a little bit. The Southeast Gassers was founded by Quayne Stott, ex-Pro Mod champion. I've known Quayne Stott my whole life. We actually grew up in Green Creek together, and I decided to get a drag car and go drag racing with him approximately 2.5 years ago, and I bought a car, the Stud Muffin, the wagon is what we call it. Named it the Stud Muffin. That was just from years ago. That's what I was called back in the day for some reason. We'll leave all that out, but we named it the Stud Muffin, and we went out last year with it, and we won the championship in it last year in C-Gas. And so then this year I decided to jump up to A-Gas, so I purchased a 55 Chevrolet, and we've been doing well with it too. We just got finished. We just run our last race this past weekend in Florida, Hope, Florida.
Okay, so you moved up from the Stud Muffin and C-Gas to A-Gas after winning the championship in 19, and then you put your crew chief Larry in the seat of the C-Gas car. So what was that like, trying to run 2 cars and the challenge that has? Because the show runs pretty quickly. Like when they start racing at 3 o'clock, they run that show from about 3 o'clock to 8 o'clock, and it's done.
Yeah, it's a challenge. Challenge getting them there, challenge them to maintain them, keep them going, and like you say, once they get started rolling, it is such a fast pace. The biggest thing with 2 cars, you don't have the time for the fans that you would like to have to talk to people, because it's coming in, splash the gas, if you're putting plugs, changing plugs, checking clutch, doing all that stuff. It's just not a lot of time to make them work, and then we do that times 2. We have a lot of help. We have Brian Harris that helps us a lot with the car setup, suspensions, and I got my son Logan Horne. We call him the crew chief. He helps us a good bit, and then Larry works hard. We all work on the cars too. It's not just he's a driver, he goes lollygag. We all have to work on them and do our own thing, just because it's the only way we can make it work.
Well, I think that thrashing is part of the show for the fans. Even though you don't have time to engage them, they enjoy the hustle, the bustle, the drag racing. I raced a lot of quick 8s growing up, and the fun was just the thrash to get back in line and make that next run or that next elimination round, and the quick decision making too, because you got to make these tuning calls like right now.
Yeah, that's right, like right there on the spot. And the other thing too about Southeast Gassers, it's a big family organization. Everybody comes to have a good time. You're right there up front with the cars. I mean, you can look at the intakes, carburetor, just whatever you want to do during whenever they're there. It makes it really nice. I mean, even go to the start lines. I mean, when you're doing the burnout, see people there in the burnout box, and it's just a real friendly atmosphere you don't normally see in drag racing. It's really unique what Quayne's put together, and I'm really proud to be a part of it.
Well, and you touched on that family thing, and we're going to come back and revisit that in a minute, but the one thing you didn't mention is all these cars in the Southeast Gassers are all manually shifted 4-speed cars. They don't have any electronics. They don't have any of the modern day gadgets. They're all straight axles except for the Superstock class. So these cars are not autopilot, let go of a button and hang on and go for a ride. These are cars where you've got to stage, you've got to control the engine RPM, you've got to hit the shift point, and the driver is really more times than not deciding the race. They have records in the classes, but typically the fastest car doesn't win the race. It's a guy that does a good job driving. And a lot of times you'll see drivers get on a roll, maybe win 2-3 races in a row, and then they hit a cold spot because their driving struggles. So tell us a little bit about it, and maybe Larry can tell us about the challenges of driving one of these cars.
Yeah, it's a lot that happens from the burnout box to the staging. Just a lot of things with getting the car turned up right, getting the RPMs right, the launch RPMs. Then obviously changing the gears going down through the 8th mile. I mean, you got to push the clutch. The requirement to push the clutch in every time you shift a gear. So there's a lot happening between the time you pull up there and the time you get to the finish line.
Oh, there's no doubt. And I mean, you can't really pick the winner ahead of time. The fans in the stands always like to pick a car, and you just don't know who's going to win.
Well, you really don't know who's going to win, because it's like you say, people think, well, this car here is, it's 400s faster. It's the fastest car here. They don't realize 400s is about that
few
far.
inches.
Yeah. So anyway, it makes it really interesting. And Larry touched on something too. The clutches on these cars, they have to be disengaged every gear. You have to hit the clutch, and it has to disengage the flywheel every time. That's one of Quain's strict rules. He puts cameras in the cars. He don't want nobody just straight shifting it, or whatever they call it, just shifting it without hitting the clutch. And like you said, there is no power additives on none of these cars. There's no, no turbos, no nitrous, no nothing. They're all 23-degree head. There is a rule that allows it to get up to 21 degree on the small block. But there's no other adders. No, we can use a line lock, but that's the only thing that we've got, and it is all 4-speed, grabbing gears, wheels up in the air, straight axle, ill handling, and that's part of the show. I mean, people think, well, I can go out there and go faster than that. Well, you can go out there and go faster than that, but you also can watch paint dry too, so whatever you want to do.
No, it's a whale of a show, and I really enjoy watching the cars. Now, another draw of this is a lot of different cars in the Southeast Gassers. It's almost like, if you follow the online community, which is huge, the builds of the cars are almost as big a deal as the racing. And you see not only the builds, but just naming the cars. We got a stud muff and a chick magnet, which I guess the stud muffin was your nickname in high school, possibly.
Yeah.
But I don't know if the chick magnet, maybe that was your self-imposed nickname.
Well, it kind of came. Actually, my daughter helped me with that, and actually, you helped me with that a little bit. To be honest with you, man, whenever we've done this car, we didn't know which way to go. I didn't want to call it Stud Muffin 2 or nothing like that, and then I thought about Super Stud, and then I was talking to my daughter, and she said, well, just go with Chick Magnet. It's kind of in the same family, and it is pretty cool because I can use the little emojis with the chick and the magnet and all that stuff. So we went with that, and I wanted something for the kids. It's not, it's not really for the other people. They like it, they don't, they don't. But I wanted something that the kids was going to remember, and so you say, a 240-pound bald-headed guy driving a 55 Chevy with Chick Mac right on the side of it, you're going to probably remember that.
Now, there's no doubt, just growing up going to the racetrack, we remember the cars by the names on them, and that's just a big draw. I think Quain really has hit a home run trying to have names on the cars, and they're all hand-lettered. There's no, die-cut decals put on these cars. These are hand-lettered. Some of them are done first class. Some of them are done with a spray can. It's just, you see a little bit of everything in the group, and it's awesome. Now, you touched on your daughter. I believe her name's Lexi.
Yes.
And then your son Logan, and then I guess your wife Donna. They're all involved in this, which this is a family organization which Quain has created.
Yep.
It's great. Logan's 24 now?
24, yeah. Logan's 24, and Lexi's 20, and then my wife just had a birthday. We won't say how old she is, but
no, I think
she don't look like it.
I think we saw that. My wife just had that same birthday, too.
She's younger than him, let's just say that.
Not by much.
Yeah, we got that same situation. But anyhow, any chance Logan getting in a car here and joining the group?
He may a little bit down the road. This it's a thought, but we would have a lot to learn. It'd be hard for Daddy, to turn him loose and let him go out there, because it's not as easy as the people in the stands thinks it is sometimes, to get these cars down the track.
Well, we've been in business here a long time at Ram, and we've seen a lot of second-generation drivers come along. We've seen Vincent Nobile come displace his father real quick out of the driver's seat, and then we watched Johnny Placino kind of push his dad to the side as well too, so that might come quicker than you think. But these kids kind of show us a little bit of what they can do.
That would be awesome if you could. That's for sure. So.
We're going to take a short break, and when we come back, we're going to take a look up close at the Stud Muffin and the Chick Magnet. back with Leslie Horne and Larry Floyd, and we're going to take a look at the cars a little bit. We're going to take a peek first at the stud muffin. Where did you get this car at?
This car, I actually bought it from Sonny Burr. He's one of the Southeast Gasser racers. And he had it, and I liked it, and it was cool, and it was white, and it kind of reminded me of Fulton back in the day, and everybody gives me a hard time. They call me and say that I'm Fulton's son, and I tell them, I say, have you ever seen Fulton? There's no way as good looking as I am. I come from Fulton. But anyway, with that being said, this is what we started with. It was solid white to begin with. We went out. It had one of Fulton's old motors from 30 years ago in it. It was old 292, just iron-headed, 283, 65 model block, 283 crank. Went out, the first time I went out was at Myrtle Beach 2.5 years ago. I messed the motor up. Come back, brought it to Gene's, he went back through it, we changed it, put 2 4s on it, and what we call the bread box is what's kind of been made famous here lately, is the bread box. And the car really picked up, and we went back and we was 4/10 faster. And so anyway, it's like when we started with SEGA Gasser, it was at this number, and when we finished the season, it was 4 or 5 tenths faster, that year.
Oh, wow.
So,
That's a pretty significant jump. Well, you mentioned the bread box manifold. Let's take a look at the engine
Okay.
up close, and you can kind of give us a little better explanation of what you're talking about.
okay. And it says 287 on the hood, Pat, but we actually blew the 287 up at Shadyside. Larry was actually in the finals in the lead, and when he went to third gear, it decided to break a rod. I mean, I don't understand. I mean, we don't 11,000, so I don't understand why the rod finally gave up, but it decided to. So what we did, we had this old motor that I had last year. I call this Old Faithful, and this is the 1965 283 iron-headed motor, and the thing just runs phenomenal. It just runs really good, and we put it back in there. We went to Florida this past weekend, and believe it or not, it was number 3 qualifier with this little motor. First round, it was number 1 qualifier, but with this little motor. So anyway, the bread box intake, you can't see it because some air stuff's on it, but the old bread box intake is just the square box, and a lot of the hot rodders know what it was, and it was junk back in the day. Nobody wanted them, nobody could use them, but Gene's figured out a way to make them work, and he's done a really good job with those, and we made some good power with them. And if you want to, we can run around. Well, let's look at the inside of this one over here too. And just show you some stuff you can do. You can do pretty much so anything on the Gasser class as far as weight reduction. You want them as safe as you can get them. So we do have roll bars and stuff in them too. Most everybody runs the 4 9-inch. This one here has the ram clutch, and Pat, you worked with me a whole lot on that, and we figured out something this year with that clutch, and it's really done very, very well for us, and we're really, really proud of the clutch.
Now, are these H-pattern shifters or inline shifters? Or what kind of
We
shifters
actually
they run?
went to inline shifters this year. I hadn't run H-pattern my whole life up until this year we went to inlines. And it took me a little while. I complained about it and griped about it because there's so much that you have to do from that burnout to the time you leave. You have to pull up, stick it in 4th gear, so you have to ratchet it to 4th gear to do your burnout, roll through, put it back in neutral, pull the lever up, stick one back in reverse, back it back up, and then pull it back up and push it back up in first and go back in. So it's a lot to remember. So, like I say, this is the CS car. This is the one I won the championship in last year, 2019. All the classes are so tight. You just would not believe how tight these classes are as far as in times. For instance, this car right here, we actually this year we broke the track record with it also. It is a 6:15 is what the track record is on that, and I have permission to say that. I can say that. I checked. B-Gas is a 5:75, and the track record holder on that one is Danny Bird. Danny Bird's him. Super Stock is a 6.99, and the track record holder on that is Rick Varner and his Impala. And then I'm the track record holder in A-Gas at a 5.35 is where we're at with it. Now, just to kind of do a little run around with this is why everybody calls me Fulton's son, because I got Fulton's name all over the car. So there's no way. Good looking thing, there's no way I can be Fulton. But anyway, we'll raise the hood on this one. Let me get that hood here for me. We'll talk about this a little bit. Now this on that side over there where you're at, Hank, is you can tell you can tell more about the bread box setup. This is a bread box, but naturally this is a big block. Everything is old school valve covers. You know, this is real magnesium wheels, old school. We try to get everything as period correct as we can, besides safety. So, you know, we can't run the Muncie transmission. If we do, we won't never get off the line. You know, it's just going to be downtime. We actually have to put diapers on them now. That was something that Quayne implemented last year or the year before last because of downtime. So it's no fun to go to a drag race and sit there and watch them clean the track all day. So there's some things that we do have to do for safety. He don't say a whole lot to us about a roll bar. He don't like the big funny car cages and all that stuff. So, but other than that, it's pretty much so self-explanatory. As you can tell, there's no power adders. There's no nothing. There's a line lock button in it. I've actually got air conditioning in this car. If you'll see it over there, it works really, really well. If it's 30 degrees outside, it works good. So, and like I say, this car was my first year in A-Gas, and you talking about a real eye-opening experience, getting out of this car and getting into this car, I can't even explain it. I mean, there's no way to explain it. When you drop the clutch on this thing, you better be ready to hold on, and you have to drive it the whole way. I mean, we're talking about you're still driving in fourth gear.
All right, so that's going to be a wrap on day 3. We want to thank you for joining us. We want to thank our special guests, Leslie and Larry, and be sure and join us for our final installment coming up. We're going to have some interesting interview time with Johnny Placino, the PDRA Pro Stock World Champion. So until then, in this true spirit of the Southeast Gassers, keep those wheels up and keep grabbing those gears.